and thank you for joining us yet again from wherever you are. Powered by Wezo TV, we are coming to you live from the Golden Tulip Hotel here in Kumasi. This morning, we are live on TVXYZ, Volta 1 TV, Ago TV, CTV, TV Africa, and also powered on Power FM, Volta Power in Ho, Kasapa FM, Adeshe FM here in Kumasi, Class FM, and Accra FM. The Electoral Commission says all is set. The Director of Elections, Dr. Srebo Kweku, says the EC hopes to declare the presidential results within 24 hours. The final voters list is ready and it has now been published online. Ballot papers and other related materials have now been dispatched to the regions, and the two main political parties are beginning to wind down their campaigns in the regions. Political parties by now should know if their candidates are winning. Strategic campaigns, close marking of all involved activities of the Electoral Commission in particular, and the security agencies, and the role you and I must play, particularly on December 7, will determine the integrity of the polls. My name is Eric Ahianyo, and this morning, as we have done since we began his campaign tour of the country, we are going to be joined by the presidential candidate of the National Democratic Congress, John Mahama. His campaign team has turned the heat on the MPP right in their backyard. To wrap up his tour, we have a conversation with him again, as we have done in all the regions he has visited. We shall touch on his tour, security ahead of the elections, EC's readiness, corruption-related issues dominating public discourse, among others. We'll take a commercial break and listen to a message from our sponsors, X Natural Mineral Water. When we return, President Mahama will be our guest. Okay. I will mind. They are playing.
X Natural Mineral Water. Simply natural.
Thank you for staying with us. President John Mahama began a 6-day campaign tour of the Ashanti region, which he had to suspend following the shocking demise of his boss, NDC founder and former president of the Republic of Ghana, Jerry John Rawlings. After the suspension and 1-week national mourning of that's Ghana's longest-serving leader, Mr. Mahama returned to the Ashanti region on Friday and will be climaxing his activities this morning and depart to the Upper East region. This morning, as we've told you before we went for the break, we are going to have a conversation with him. Mr. President, you are welcome.
Good morning, Eric.
I see you refreshed.
Yeah, we had a good night's sleep yesterday.
We had a good night's sleep. I think Friday we retired almost around 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And yesterday, just before 11 o'clock, when we were heading towards our hotels. We said today, looks like God has performed
No,
magic.
no. When we finish at 11, it's like finishing early enough.
Finishing early enough.
Yeah.
Now,
Because normally 2 a.m. There was one time we got back at 6 a.m.
6
You remember?
That
in
was
Upper West.
Upper West.
Yeah.
Yes, 6 a.m. And so we are used to it.
Yeah.
And we thank God for giving us life and for protecting us. But before we continue the conversation, yesterday you were at the Ejura Government Hospital. We heard of the sad news involving the accident of some supporters who were heading towards that area to meet you. Yeah. You spent time visiting the patients at the hospital. I could imagine how worrying you were when you heard the news. Let's start. What's the latest, and what plans do you have for those perhaps who must have lost their lives? We understand 6, and those who are recuperating at the hospital.
Yeah, this happened when we were living in King Council, and so our next stop was Ejura. But you know, when you live in King Council, you go towards Techiman, and then from Techiman you take the Ejura road. And so just when we were wrapping up at King Council, we heard there had been an accident in Ejura, but we didn't know the full details until, as we got closer, we were speaking to the local executive, and they said that some members of one of our branches who were coming to join the rally to see me, you know, had an accident. And so when we get to Ejura, they've arranged for us to go straight to the hospital and see the injured.
And those watching us, you can see on your screens as we speak and hear our president the images of his visit to the hospital. You can continue. People are watching your interaction with the doctors and those who were taking care of the injured.
So when we got to Ejura, we went straight to the hospital, and we met Dr. Mensah, you know, very fantastic medical doctor, and he and his staff were doing a great job. They had mobilized all their staff, and they were attending to the injured. 6 had died, and 54 were injured, and so the medical personnel were attending to all of them. Some had fractures, others had lacerations, and so they were stitching some, you know, cleaning the wounds and treating them. They did a very good job. I want to publicly commend them for their dedication and their commitment to work. But it was a very terrible scene. There was blood everywhere. You know, people were bleeding. There was blood on the floor. You know, but I went patient to patient and comforted them. It gave them some comfort that, you know, we came there to visit them. We also left some funds with the Member of Parliament, you know, to take care of any medical bills that would arise as a result of what had happened. Today, our executives are going to visit the families of those who lost their lives and then see what the funeral arrangements will be. But definitely the party is going to actively support the families.
It's good to hear that you are taking care of the bills and the families are showing, the party is showing concern by the visit you've just announced. Just briefly, we have several of such people, and we are not relating this to accidents per se, but these are genuine party supporters who go all out to give you the support, follow you throughout the country. What should constituency regional executives be doing, especially identifying some of these individuals who are sacrificing so much to the extent that we have lost some of them only yesterday?
Yeah, that's been one of the major problems we have with our political parties, because if you go and you see the enthusiasm that these young party supporters show, the expectation is that when government is in power, we'll do something about their circumstances so that they can get employment, they can get jobs, and so on and so forth. And that's why we're coming out with a program to create 250,000 jobs a year so that we can push a lot of these young people, you know, to find jobs, you know, planting trees in crop processing zones and all the other fantastic ideas that we have. But over and above that, one of the main reasons why our young people are not able to find jobs in the world of work is the fact that our educational system trains them to just be literate and to be able to read and write and then look for white-collar jobs. The time has come for us to make a pivot and emphasize technical and vocational education training. That's why I was saying that in every district that does not have a technical training center, we're going to establish one. And then we're going to register all the young people who are willing, and we're going to send them in batches to train in any vocation or profession that they want. And when they have finished, help them to either set up themselves or to give them the relevant certificate so that if a company is hiring, he can go and say, look, I'm a welder.
So it's good to hear this. I'm sure in the course of the conversation, we'll definitely touch on jobs and creation of some of these opportunities for the youth. But I recall your mood in Obuasi when we were following you and we had the shocking news of the death of the former president. And in the various speeches after that, we could immediately tell that you had been touched. Now, you have been stressing on the need for the NDC and the country as a whole to celebrate the great strides by the late former president, Jerry John Rawlings. For you, as somebody who has been that close to him, what are some of the lessons we can draw from what he stood for?
I'm fortunate to have, seen his whole life trajectory from 79, when I was in the university. We remember the activities of the June 4 uprising and all that. As a young student in university, so we saw all that. Then in 81, I had completed and I was doing my national service, and so we saw the events of 1981. At the time it was tumultuous. Ghana was in a very bad place. Times were hard, the economy was in shambles, food was very difficult to come by, but he persevered. There were counter coups, which were abortive, and he started the economic recovery program. And it is that program that put Ghana's economy back onto the track of growth. And since that year, the economic recovery program started, and Ghana started recording positive economic growth. We've never recorded one single negative growth year. It is only this year that we're threatened with negative growth because of a series of factors. Mismanagement is part of it, but the coronavirus too has come to worsen it. But he stood for principle. He lived a very, like I said, tumultuous life. He had his successes, he had his failures, like every human being. And for me, I hold him in high esteem because he gave me life's opportunities. As a young member of parliament, he spotted my talent and made me a deputy minister of communications, and the rest is history. But he stood for principle. He liked to use the word integrity. He's a person of integrity. And so it meant that he judged people by how he saw you in terms of your honesty, your uprightness, your truthfulness. And so we must judge him positively by the principles that he stood for. There are many, moments we shared with him, some funny, some serious, but eventually when we all retire and we start writing our memoirs, we would write a lot more about how we remember him, both personally and up close, and also working for him as president.
This conversation is with the former president and presidential candidate of the NDC, John Mahama. We are at Golden Tulip Hotel here in Kumasi. He's wrapping up his tour of the Ashanti region today, and this conversation is about his assessment, and of course we shall go into very serious issues. We are looking at corruption, we are looking at election security, the integrity of the elections, and of course you and I, we are looking at what opportunities are there for us should the NDC win the December 7 elections. Now, you've been around the Ashanti region. You came back only last Friday. What is your own assessment of how people have received you, Kumasi in particular, over the period?
It's been very, very impressive, and I feel positive about the outcome in Ashanti. We don't win Ashanti as a region, but Ashanti contributes either the third highest or fourth highest of the votes we get, depending on how the election goes. Ashanti is one of the populous regions, second after Greater Accra. I campaigned here in 2016, and I'm campaigning here in 2020. and I can see a marked difference between the two. The reception of the people to us, the positivity, the enthusiasm you see. I see younger people coming to our rallies, so it means that we have the youth on board. I see people that just have a commitment and travel miles to just come and either see me or participate in the rally. We're in a position we don't have the resources to bus people to our rallies, and so everybody you see at our rally is either doing a personal expenditure to be able to get there. And I think that commitment tells us that the support we're having is genuine. We've met the chiefs, and the chiefs have been more forthright. I mean, they've said that, look, even though we constantly vote for the MPP, it is only during NDC administrations that we get development, we get water, we get light, our roads are done. And when we're in office, we did phenomenal work here in Ashanti. One, because it's the second most populous region, and then two, it houses the second largest city in Ghana, you know, and so we did quite some work here in the road sector, in the health sector, and I think that the people of the region remember that, and so you can see that there's a greater outpouring of support for us than it was in the past.
I'll come back to you on that, but just briefly, I want those watching us on TVXYZ, Wazor TV, and we are grateful to the technical team of Wazor TV for giving us the opportunity to use their platform, and TVXYZ to be specific, Volta 1 TV, Argo TV, Class TV, several of the TV stations which are also joining us to share this conversation with the former president. Let us watch a little of the atmosphere, the ambience around the former president's campaign team as he went around Swami to be specific, just to give you an idea about how Asanteman is receiving the NDC's presidential candidate. Significant compared to the previous years.
Changing in Ashanti, and that commitment and support to a party which, when it's in power, does not do anything for them. I mean, the MPP has been in power for 4 years, and there's absolutely nothing significant they did here in the Ashanti region. And the people are beginning to ask, what have you done for us in 4 years? We give you more than 70% of the votes on every occasion. And yet when you come, I mean, there's virtually nothing to show for the period you are in office. And so they're beginning to analyze, and they see that, you know, their prospects are better under an NDC administration.
This December 7 is just about 15 days away. You've been to virtually almost every region. I understand about 3 or 4 more to go. What makes you that confident that the John Mahama Jane, that Professor Nana Jane Opoku Agyemang ticket is winning this election?
I've covered every region. I just have the 4 northern regions left. And of course, you know, I come from the Savannah region now, you know, but that's the part of the country I come from. And so we saved it till the last. And so I leave for the Upper East today, and then I'll brush through the north. There are a few more parts I have to do in Greater Accra. I'll spend the last week, you know, covering that. And then after that, we will leave the rest to the people of Ghana and to the Almighty God to decide. But I believe that God's favor is on us, and that we have enough goodwill amongst the people to be able to win this election. I think that our ticket is a very balanced ticket, and it offers the best prospects for Ghana. We have our women folk who form a majority of our population, and they've largely been left out of the issues of governance. I remember the president did a program in Canada, and he was a bit, you know, disparaging of the role of women in governance. And the lady asked him, he says, but why don't you amplify them? This is an amplification of women, because a woman serving in the second highest office of the land, chairing cabinet when the president is not there. I mean, this is unprecedented, it's historic. It gives women the chance to come to the table of decision making and really bring women's issues front and center, instead of being talking about it, and yet men take most of the decisions, you know, for women. So I think that is a great opportunity in that regard. And Nana Jane is, let me use President Rawlings' word, a woman of integrity, you know, and she brings a certain freshness to the ticket. I've been in politics for a long time. I've received a lot of blows and, you know, a lot of battering to your image and all that. But we soldier on. But she still has a fresh, you know, freshness that she brings to the ticket. And I think that we can work very well together. I believe Ghanaians can see that this is a ticket that they can trust, and I'm sure that they will come with us.
Some of you just whispered to me that today is her birthday. I don't know if that's
yes,
true.
Yes. It's Nana Jane's birthday, and so I called to congratulate her. I've posted something on my social media page, and I want to take this opportunity to wish her a very happy birthday. May she have good health and many more years, you know, of serving the Republic and our people.
I can imagine how she'll be celebrating it today, because we have been following you, and we know, especially with 2 weeks to go, it will be a mixture of enjoying her birthday, which will be unusual compared to previous years, readiness to tackle the elections ahead.
Well, my own birthday is coming up on the 29th. And we'll be celebrating it on the campaign trail, so.
We'll enjoy it together. Now, the Electoral Commission, and let's get back to conversations. Now, we have 2 weeks to the elections, and this conversation with the former president is looking at how we are seeing his campaign in the Ashanti region. And of course, there are outstanding issues. The integrity of the elections depends on the Electoral Commission, depends on Ghana's security systems to be put in place on the election day and days afterwards, the role of election observers, and of course, critical issues bordering the state. Today, we are talking about corruption, but let's first focus on the Electoral Commission. The EC says it has proved skeptics wrong. Ballot papers and other logistics have been dispatched, and results will be declared within 24 hours after the close of polls. But the integrity of the polls, as I said, is key. Now, let's touch on election security first. Mr. President, you have served notice already that you would not entertain anybody rather than the Election Security Task Force, which will be deployed. Now, the EC has already suggested that it is working in tandem with the police to assure this. What is your measures that are so far?
Well, I've been in government before, I've been president before. I know what the processes are. Before any election, an election security task force is put in place, and it is normally spearheaded by the police, but national security plays a very critical role in terms of funding it, in terms of working with all the security agencies to make sure that the deployment is adequate to take care of any untoward situation. And so I should be sure that all those processes have been gone through. I haven't seen the details of what the deployment are, but I've heard a few things, said by the IGP, which are normal, and I think that we expect that should happen. He talks about having, name tags and uniforms, standard uniforms and standard police uniforms. And I think that's important because lately in our electoral violence and things, we've seen people in strange brown uniforms with masks and all kinds of things who don't look like our regular police service. And so on the day, we want to make sure that everybody who is deployed, excuse me, the talking has been quite a lot, so no, I have some tea here.
Security, and the former president is addressing the concerns that have been raised over the years. Around this time, I remember I spoke to the minority leader in parliament who made a demand that all policemen and other security agencies who be deployed must be clearly marked and identified for easy reference in case they breach what directives they must follow. Now, you were on it before. I gave you some space to...
So the expectation is that everybody who will be deployed will be in a recognizable uniform, and also be easy to identify in terms of your name tag and all that, so that in case there are any incidents, we know who to hold responsible. But we still do have our fears because of the way this government operates, that they will smuggle their invisible forces and others that they have over the years recruited into the services. They'll smuggle them into the election security task force and then use them to create whatever trouble there is.
I have a video just for the purpose of giving those watching us live the appreciation of the concern you are raising. It's about a police, some men in uniform believed to be thugs in police uniform, and they were threatening electorates that on election day, if you finish voting, just go. This is contrary to what majority of Ghanaians expect, that when people hang around, it is difficult for anybody to snatch ballot boxes or to stuff it. I want us to watch that video, and then I will take your reaction to that. You have seen the video. It's gone viral. I'm sure it has come to your attention if you have been following politics in this country. Now, the police administration has responded. They didn't speak to the threats, which sounded very unprofessional, but they tried to create the impression that these are professionally trained police officers, and the camouflage they were wearing were their training uniforms. We will delve much into this. I'm just being prompted that your camera went off. I don't know if you are back. If my producers can prompt me, I can direct the question straight to His Excellency. Good. Thank you very much. And sorry for the small mishap. Now, when you watch this video for the first time, how did you react?
It shows the indiscipline that's in our service now. I mean, why would professional policemen do a video like this? And they get away with it. A pickup was carrying party supporters. I raised attention to it. The IGP said he will investigate. Have you heard anything about it? It shows the indiscipline that has come into the service, because this is really not on. I mean, the police, you're supposed to protect the citizens, not threaten the citizens. And yet they'll get away with it, because a lot of them are the invisible forces and those thugs they've brought into the police service. Yes, they might have been recruited, and he says they are professional police officers, but I mean, what kind of attitude and behavior is this? You know, the police administration should feel ashamed of themselves. that you allow your officers to do this. By now you should have sanctioned them, and they are not sanctioning people. I mean, you see that it's lowered their respect in the eyes of the public. If you remember during the registration exercise, police officers sitting in uniform and somebody in mufti holding a pistol was threatening him.
Right here in Asawase in the Ashanti
and somebody
region.
was threatening him, and the police were begging the person who was threatening the police officer. It shows that the image of the service is down, and government has bastardized the institution. Not only the institution, many institutions, and all they are doing is because we're getting into elections, they suddenly are paying them some monies into their accounts and things to try and you bribe them and all that. I think that the integrity of the service and the pride with which they work is what matters. And in our time, you were proud to be a police officer, and they acted professionally. If anybody breached the code of ethics of the service, we sanctioned the person. And so it kept a general discipline in the service. Now all that discipline is gone. I mean, they behave in any way they want, and they get away with it.
We'll speak more to your plans for the security services and some outstanding issues that are begging for definite responses or promises by presidential candidates like you. While we continue this conversation with specific reference to security and the suspicion around deployment to be made, there are some pictures that have been going around about uniforms being sewn. These are supposed to have been sneaked out of one of the printing houses. And it shows uniforms they allege are being sewn, which will be given to men to be deployed to look like they are security men. They are on the screen now. Now, when these rumors come around this time, my question is your party in touch with the hierarchy of the Election Security Task Force? And what assurances are you being given to be sure that your men on the ground will not be intimidated on election day?
That video went viral, and nobody knows what the source of the video is. We don't know what garment company is the one, sewing those uniforms. But it is for the police service to come and allay the fears of the public and say, we're sewing some uniforms for our men, so that then we know that it is officially sanctioned. Or the police service comes and say, we don't know anything about it, and that anybody who has any information about where these uniforms are shown should come forward and assist us. That's how a police service acts. The video has gone viral. Nobody has heard anything, no reaction from the police. Whether those uniforms being sewn belong to them or not, we don't know. And that's why I'm saying that the general administration of the police has, come to a very low ebb. And we're sad about that. We're hoping that we win and we'll trip the system back into place.
No, but with 2 weeks to the elections, we know, and let me just go to the records and I'll read it as I have put it together. The police has identified 4,098 flashpoints across the country, the highest since 1992, 635 of them in Ashanti region alone. The Volta region has 321 constituencies. Oti region, which has only 8 districts, according to the police and flashpoints, has 223. The Eastern region has 33 districts, 405 flashpoints. Savannah region has only 7 districts, 129 flashpoints. Greater Accra with 34 districts, 264 flashpoints. And Ashanti region with 635 flashpoints in 47 districts. Now, this seems strange compared to the flashpoints the police has openly made public in previous elections, and I'm referring to the period since 1992. There are 2 schools of thought: that men are going to be deployed to suppress voters or to intimidate people from checking or making sure that they don't abuse the system under the guise of flashpoints. Has this come to the attention of your party, and how are you responding to this suspicion?
As president, I was head of the National Security Agency. I chaired the National Security Council meetings. And before the election, the police and the security services come up with the flashpoints. I've never seen such a fantastic, outrageous number of flashpoints. And the point is, for every flashpoint that is identified, the threat is indicated. And so it might say, the threat is clashes between party supporters. That would be one of them. Or it might indicate some other threat. But every flashpoint comes with a justification of why it has been identified as a flashpoint. But if you look at this, 4,000 and something flashpoints, it's like we're going to war. I mean, on what basis have they identified them as flashpoints? And what is the threat and the threat level for each of those particular flashpoints? What is likely to happen for them to say that those are flashpoints? No explanation, you know. And so that's what I'm saying, that the general security of this country's architecture has gone down completely, you know. And it makes Ghanaians, you know, lose respect for our security agencies. Because 4,000, why 4,000 and something?
I know your party may not want to disclose your strategies to counter any attempt to rig the elections. But for those who are watching you as Ghanaians, who obviously may have some sympathies towards your political party, how should they respond to some of these suspicions and ensure on election day that the ballot is protected?
Well, we're putting our faith in the people of Ghana to protect the election and to make sure that their voices count. And so I've said that, you know, people's power, people's action, everybody acting in his polling station must make sure that the integrity of the polling is not compromised. And so we count on the people of Ghana. We are not going to deploy vigilantes or armed people to go causing trouble. But I mean, if somebody goes to a polling station to cause trouble, he's unidentified, he's, you know, misbehaving or trying to snatch ballot boxes, the Constitution gives the power to the people of Ghana to resist the person. And so we're just putting it in the hands of the people of Ghana to make sure that the integrity of this ballot is protected.
This conversation with the former presidential candidate now of the NDC, is at the Golden Tulip Hotel here in Kumasi, the Ashanti regional capital. We told you earlier we'll be wrapping up his tour of Ashanti, move on to Upper East, and then wrap up somewhere in the northern region. We are speaking to security issues and preparations towards the December 7 elections. We'll be taking a short break, but there are some outstanding issues. The NCA is critical. Anytime I speak to politicians, they raise concerns about the role of the NCA, the role of how electoral results are transferred or maybe communicated to the EC and so on, the possibility of systems being jammed and so on. In recent times, some incidents have happened. I remember you were on one of the radio stations in Kumasi, and during the interview, the concerns were that the system was jammed. Just recently, one of the radio stations in Accra, Joy FM, was also airing a documentary on corruption, and the impression that went widespread on social media was that the system was jammed. The NCA elections and going forward, what concerns do you have, if any?
A lot of concerns. You see, I've been telling you that one of the tragedies of the Akufo-Addo administration is not the tangible, it's the intangible. And the intangible is the bastardization of our institutions. Our institutions are supposed to work in an environment where they are predictable and where they are not influenced by partisan politics. Unfortunately, he's put his acolytes in virtually every institution, and they act, you know, not according to any ethics. They just are purely political operatives. Because the NCA, I mean, look at our telecom system. It has deteriorated. The efficiency of our, you know, telephone service has deteriorated. You can't make one successful call without it cutting. You can't hear the person. You have to switch off, make the call again. That's what NCA should be worried about. And yet it is about closing radio stations, closing TV stations, jamming stations because, I mean, a political opponent is going to talk on it. I was going to Ebusia FM, and we had advertised the program to start at 8 a.m. You know, just before 8 a.m., they put off their signal. And so I couldn't do the program on Ebusia FM. They had to shift the interview to Ultimate FM. I heard the story of Joy FM, and they were going to air that, you know, investigative report on national lotteries, and they put their signal off. You know, they do things like that. But even look, we were going to an IPAC meeting to discuss the electronic transmission system of the EC and all that. And guess who came as one of the representatives of the MPP?
Who?
Joe Anochi. The head of NCA came as one of MPP's representative to an IPAC meeting. Can you imagine that?
But one would say he's a member of a
No,
political party.
But once you head a sensitive institution like the NCA, you do not indulge in open partisan politics. That's the ethics of, being in that position. But he was there as a representative of the NPP. And that's why, we believe that anything can happen. I think that maybe on the day they will shut down the internet like all these repressive regimes do in many places, so that nobody can communicate and then they can do whatever wishy-washy thing they want to do. So, we don't feel comfortable with somebody like that at the head of that institution. And all the actions of that institution since he became the head, shutting down opposition stations and all that, just show that that institution has been bastardized. It's become an appendage of the new patriotic party. And it's a sad testament for Ghana.
You can also send us your views or maybe concerns on this program by WhatsApp 020-866-7000. We'll be taking a short break. When we come back, we'll speak to issues about corruption. And of course, Mr. President, I told you there are outstanding issues security agencies are interested in. And many of them obviously watch us, listen to us, and are following us. And I would also want to take your views on that. We'll be back after this break.
The average human body mass should have at least 60% water for optimal performance in any physical or mental exercise. We can help you maintain it naturally. X Natural Mineral Water. Simply natural.
I think most often when we travel outside, we're able to say that America is different from Ghana simply because of the infrastructure we see. The good roads, the good hospitals, the good schools and all that. And so if an amount of 10 billion is going to be pushed into our infrastructure to elevate it to a point where we're going to have that solace, like those in America and all that, then I think it's a very good thing. So if we're going to get that, I know it's going to create jobs, it's going to open up the economy and all that. So it's a very great thing, and I feel very excited about that.
Sa kwan wi aye wo so yi kotoba bi spinters ase na e rough road obi aso nim say rough road yentumi ntina nchen ye business ben ni si ba ya na wabeka kwan yi kota menim na ndc ye kwan we nti o ye wie no manya akwanya a me di table abesi ho a me ye mo ba mani.
So welcome back. This is TVXYZ. This is Wezo TV. Thanks to the technical team for giving us their platform, and of course Class TV, that's CTV, Ago TV, TV Africa. I nearly forgot. Power FM, Accra FM, Class FM, and of course I'm told one of the FM stations in Kumasi here is also picking us. I'll remember the name. But let's continue the conversation with the former president. We are here at Golden Tulip Hotel in Kumasi. There are rumors around that's going around that you are going to revert the service year of junior ranks of the army from 25 to 30 years. Is that true?
No, definitely not. It's not true.
What are the details? I'm not too conversant with them, but these keep coming up.
Yeah, you know, recruitment to enter the army, you must not be above 25 years. And so if you are recruited, let's assume at the upper end of the limit, 25 years, then you were made to serve 25 years. And so by the time you left the service, you were 50 years. It was done for a purpose, so that when you leave the service, you can integrate back into civilian life before you hit 60. And so you can do some courses, academic courses and things, or you can find a job, you know, and start doing, so that you integrate back into civilian life. But when this administration came, they increased it to 30 years. So it means that you come out at 55, and then you're closer to retirement. And so your employability is very limited, because most companies won't want, you serve them just for 5 years and then you go on retirement. But it's been done 30 years. And so, I mean, we should just leave it like that. What we intend to do is that while the soldiers are, you know, in service, we will find a way of getting them to improve on their skills and academic, you know, qualifications, so that even when they come out at 55 years of age, they still can find, you know, something in the world of work. So 30 years, it has been done already. It will remain. Nobody's going to change
that's good assurance. There's another area, Cap 30. And of course, I remember the last time you also spoke about police officers who may have upgraded themselves, and that you were going to give them amnesty.
Yeah.
Can you briefly address the Cap 30 issue and this amnesty?
Actually, Cap 30 was something that came up. The present administration wanted to shift the police service onto the SNP pension scheme. And of course, I mean, there was some back push to it. And so they suspended it, they left it, and it's been left like that. But I thought that they would give them an assurance when they did their manifesto by putting it in there in black and white, that we're not going to move you onto the SNP pension scheme. We did that. In our manifesto, we make a commitment that we'll leave the police service and other services on their Cap 30 pension scheme. And so our commitment to that is in black and white, is written. This government has refused to do that. All they do is they give them verbal reassurances that, you know, they will not do that. So I think that they need a firmer commitment, you know, in writing, that that is not going to happen.
So in your opinion, without that commitment, there's the possibility that
there are a lot of things that they are just keeping in abeyance. You take this customs amendment thing. I called on them to withdraw it from Parliament, amend the law in Parliament. They've refused to do it. They just suspended the implementation. And the intention is, let's wait and see what happens in the election, and then we'll decide what to do. But I've assured the car dealers, the mechanics, magazine workers and everybody that when we come, we're going to amend that law in order to take away the ban on salvage vehicles. And it's in our manifesto. We have committed to it.
All right. And the amnesty, it still stands,
yes.
as you told me the last
time. You know, what
time.
happens is, a lot of the service men, you know, now because of easier access, especially to private universities, they undertake courses. And so he might have come into the service as a JHS graduate or an SHS graduate, but in the course of years, he goes and studies and earns a degree. But then he still remains another rank, you know, and the police service does not recognize, you know, that kind of illegal, let me put it in quotes, illegal, you know, academic acquisition. And so there are a lot of them hanging in the shadows. They have the degree, but they cannot use it for anything. And so we're going to do an amnesty, let them all come out. Let's see what degrees you have, and then see how we can do the adjustments. But after that, everybody has to follow the rule. The police service needs some specialized skills. And so if you go and study in those areas of study, then it makes it useful for them to utilize you. But if you go and do, I'm just using it as an example, you go and do archaeology, you know, the police service really don't need archaeologists. And so if you have a degree in archaeology and it's not a related course that helps them in their policing,
their operations,
exactly, then it makes it difficult just because you have a degrry to promote you.
But
we'll do the amnesty. We'll let all of them come out of the closet.
So
and then we'll see.
Unfortunately, because I wanted to catch you, is that corruption is another major issue. We don't have much time. Mr. President, I have seen a post or several posts on Ghana Web, And the poll has been talking about the fact that this year's election, apart from the manifesto, will also be determined by Ghanaian and the appreciation of corruption-related issues. Now, from where you sit and recent conversations, matters that are trending, how do you feel?
Well, when several polls were done in advance of this election, corruption did not feature much. It was still quite down the ladder. It was more jobs, education, healthcare, hardship, and things like that. And then corruption was like number 5. But recently there have been several scandals, that have hit Ejapa. Then the issue to do with the special prosecutor's report, then PA investigation, then recently national lotteries, so all that has, magnified the perception of corruption. And so corruption has suddenly jumped up as one of the issues that people are concerned about. You see, the thing about corruption is, as chief executive of the state, you are not in every institution. And so it's not that corruption will not occur. There are people who will go off and do things that are untoward. It is how you let the institutions deal with them decisively that matters. But the mistake with Nana Akufo-Addo is, some of the people engaged in corruption are so close to him in terms of relationship that he's unable to do anything to them. And aside from that, he has a proclivity where corruption has occurred and it has to do with one of his appointees or things, to try and, clear them and shield them. He's done that in almost every scandal that has hit. They frustrated investigations. The Galamsey investigation, have you heard about it again?
No.
It's virtually dead. They tied the hands of the Office of the Special Prosecutor not to be able to proceed because a complaint had been made to the Office of the Special Prosecutor. They went and started a parallel investigation with the CID. And then the CID came out with a report clearing them. I mean, that was just to stymie the work of the special prosecutor. There are many such examples, the Norway scandal, he said, oh, there's nothing in it, there's nothing there. You go and buy a property that is valued about 3 point something million, you're selling it for 12, you're buying it for 12 point something million. Somebody was going to make 8 point something million and walk away if the matter had not blown up. And then you say, oh, there's nothing wrong with it, and then let's leave it. And so he just keeps sweeping all these corruption issues under
I'll take your reaction on how you are going to deal with what many people have identified as government-owned appointed corruption czar that has nailed him in the coffin. Yesterday at Mampong, you spoke to the Japa issue, to be specific. I want us to listen to you briefly. Then when we come, Ghanaians want to know, if you win the December elections, what would you do to many of such cases that many assume that government has swept under the carpet, under the tag many see him as a clearing agent?
Yet is council a complaint. And the motor Abamba Mia, Meva Bessi Ghana, no bien Jumaya, no bien Watono. And yet, Nena, a complaint change the year. After Adani Ebushan Chendi, Yesho Samote Hamote Neakoso in Japan, I just said Yakudia, your gold royalties, Nina, the core abroche, Ama and Kophobia Kofa. And the Jina so said the BM. And so, almost you free home, almost the Aton Cheng, almost the San Parliament. The chest almost the Toho Ashe about one. Say omunya kudima omu besa de sa ejapana ba enso me dim say omu boa nyame ma ne mbasa ndc be di kumi.
So that was Mampong last night. You spoke extensively. Now, I keep receiving a lot of text messages. I'll be reading a few of them. And the concern is, what would you do to many of such cases that are still hanging? PDS, Ejapa, and until recently, NLA, which is still under investigation or has popped up to be quite another scandal, which Ghanaians cannot let go.
Well, you have the anti-corruption institutions that, if are left free, will do their job. Ghanaians will elect me to change the course of their their lives and their destinies to work to get them employment. I'm going to be focusing on putting our ideas, the 1 million jobs plan, the big push, and others. And so it won't be my job to run after political opponents or whatever. All I'll do is let the system work. Let the Office of the Special Prosecutor investigate those cases and prosecute anybody who's been involved in them. That's how it should be. You know, remove all the political interference in the anti-corruption institutions and let them investigate anybody. And the point I make is the least courage you can show in the fight against corruption is to prosecute your political opponents. That's the easiest thing to do because they don't belong to your party. But the difficulty is prosecuting your own when they have, you know, gone afoul. I don't say that we will come and run an administration where some scandal or other will not come up, but allowing the system to work and deal with whoever it is what Ghanaians expect a president to do. And so we'll let the Office of the Special Prosecutor, the Economic and Organized Crime Administration, the Financial Intelligence Center, you know, the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, and all those institutions to carry out their work and investigate Ejapa. Ejapa, we already have the corruption risk assessment by the Office of the Special Prosecutor. So it gives a first step towards any concrete investigation. And so they can move it the next step and see exactly what happened and who were involved.
The Auditor General's office plays a key role.
Yes.
Dom Leveau was virtually pushed under by the current administration for daring to fight corruption involving the senior minister, Yosaf Mafo, and so on. Now, these threats are obvious, and the international community, I believe, is closely monitoring what has happened. You've talked about the fact that you make institutions work and let it be devoid of that political twist and so on. Beyond that, you have promised an Operation Sting policy in your government. We don't have much time, but what assurances are in there?
Well, it's going to be mostly a coordinating function, and then it's also going to allow the kinds of investigation that Manasseh Azuri and others do. How do we integrate it into the law so that some of the evidence that they bring up is accepted for prosecution of people? It will also be a way of naming and shaming public officials. We're going to have people undercover who will, you know, go around and witness corruption, and based on that they will, you know, arrest people, and we will name and shame them and let Ghanaians know what they were doing. And so it will be more of a coordinating function, allowing the anti-corruption institutions drawing their attention to areas where we think corruption has occurred so that they can investigate in a prompt manner, and then get a group of, you know, prosecutors who really can take these matters to court and prosecute them as fast as possible so that justice can be seen to be done. And
there will be no threats against journalists or what we are hearing of attempts to kill people here and there.
I've been president before, and you can ask any journalist whether they were ever threatened, you know, in the course of their duties. We didn't shut down radio stations. I mean, free expression is something our constitution has guaranteed, but sometimes you have people who come in ostensibly as constitutional leaders who promise to promote democratic freedoms and rights, but you find out that there can be dictatorships even under a democracy, and that's what we're finding out with this president. He came across as a human rights lawyer and standing for the rights of people, but he's trampled on more Ghanaian rights than any president in the history of the Fourth Republic. And so, I mean, definitely he has quashed his own credibility when it comes to democracy and democratic issues. Journalists live in fear. I've spoken to many journalists. You do a program critical of government. By the time you finish, even when you have not finished, you start getting calls online threatening you while you're doing that program. Why should that be the case? And so it has created a culture of silence again. Journalists are afraid to question government on many issues. I think it's a very unfortunate and sad situation for our country to be under a president like Nana Akufo-Addo and have this situation, because he was part of the advocates for Tarzan station, Radio I, and all that. He was involved in all that, fighting for freedom of expression. And then you come and you are president and journalists don't feel safe. You know, it's a very sad testament of his administration.
So, Mr. Former President John Mahama has been conversing with us about his plans for Ghana his commitment to ensure that we improve on whatever we do, and then of course his assessment of his tour of the Ashanti region, which is ending today. We'll be taking a short break. We always end with his message to Ghanaians. We have 14 or 15 days to December 7th. What is he going to tell everybody, including you watching me? You will hear that after this break and your text messages.
I think most often when we travel outside, we're able to say that America is different from Ghana simply because of the infrastructure we see. The good roads, the good hospitals, the good schools and all that. And so if an amount of 10 billion is going to be pushed into an infrastructure to elevate it to a point where we're going to have that solace, like those in America and all that, then I think it's a very good thing. So if we're going to get that, I know it's going to create jobs, it's going to open up the economy and all that. So it's a very great thing, and I feel very excited about that.
Sa kwan wi aye wo so yi Kotobabi Spinters ase na rough road. Obi aso nim say rough road yentimi ntina nchen ye business. Ben ni si ba ya no wabeka kwan yi kota. Menim na NDC ye kwan we. Nti oye wie no manya akwanya a medi table abesi ho a meye mobile money.
Welcome back. This is TVXYZ. We are also live on Ago TV, TV Africa, Volta 1 TV, CTV, and several other FM stations. I will definitely mention the names of all the FM stations which are picking our feed FM. I think it's Adishe FM, which is also picking our feed live here in Kumasi. I am here with the former president. We are wrapping up this conversation. I have a number of text messages. I'll read them after his message to Ghanaians. Security agencies are watching you. Ghanaians of all walks of life are watching you. 2 weeks to the elections, another platform. What do you have to tell them, Mr. President?
Thank you very much. We've done all the campaigning we can, and we're getting ready to wrap up. I think it's been a tough campaign, but we've taken our message to all corners of the country. As the current president said, he said this election is going to be about track records, and I believe that we have the track record to show in terms of development, you know, and I have been president before. Ghanaians have seen my administration, and Ghanaians remember, you know, how things were in my administration, and they can make a comparison with the current government the last 4 years. And so I urge Ghanaians, we're going to implement a lot of new ideas. We're going to implement, you know, programs that will create jobs for young people, because that is the one major existential threat that we have in our country, that if we don't find job for young people, you know, they say that the devil finds work for idle hands. And so that is our number one priority, that everything that we do will be geared towards finding jobs for young people to do. We're going to improve the quality of our free SHS. We're going to abolish the double track so that our children can stay continuously in school without having to come home and stay for 3 long months. We're going to add the private schools into the free SHS program. We're going to finish all the community day schools that we promised, 200 of them, so that we can create more space in the secondary school so that all the children and students can go to school at the same time and vacate at the same time. I'm number 2 on the ballot, and you'll see my photo, you'll see the umbrella of the NDC, and then the space for you to put your thumbprint. And so when you go to the polling station on the day, you should vote for number 2. And number 2 is John Mahama, represents a solid track record as president, and represents a better prospect for the young people of this country and for the future of Ghana.
So, what is your message to your partner?
Yes.
I'm talking about Prof. Nana Jane.
Yes.
Kokajiman. Today is her birthday.
Prof. Nana Jane, I wish you a very happy birthday. You are a good person. You have lived a life of public service, and you're 1 year older. I hope that God continues to protect and preserve you, give you good health, so that we can finish this campaign together and continue to protect and preserve you so that you can make history by being the first vice president, female vice president of Ghana. And I'm sure that as vice president, you're going to make such a huge difference in not only women's issues and children's issues, but in your general capacity for leadership. And I look forward to partnering with you to come into the presidency and make a difference, for our people.
So that's how we wrap up. But let me just go through the first few messages. This one says, Mr. Former President, just recently the National Lotteries has come up, a lot of corruption scandals there. How are you going to handle such a sensitive institution if you win?
Yeah. The National Lotteries is an institution that has been working in the gaming industry. And I remember that we came out with a regulator for the gaming industry, which is the National Gaming Commission. And so, I don't know what kind of regulatory work that the Gaming Commission has done for such massive corruption to take place. These things were coming up. We used to hear reports about inflated contracts, several contracts being issued on the same day to persons associated with the chief executive and all that. But in all cases, the president brushed them aside until Joy FM took it up personally and carried out that investigation. Otherwise, it would have just been swept under the carpet. And so I think we should strengthen the regulatory side of the Gaming Commission so that it's able to spot and, take care of some of these things before they become major scandals like this. There's also the issue of a new online banker-to-banker program that the NLA and somebody are running, and that's threatening the jobs of a lot of these little people who sit in kiosk and write lotto tickets, lotto writers. There are hundreds of thousands of them, and so we need to balance out so that we don't take the livelihoods of some people, just because we have introduced some new banker-to-banker online kind of thing, So when we come, we'll look at all these things and then balance the interests.
So, sorry, I have to allow you to go because we understand that there's an event at Asawase as we speak, and the former president has to rush there and address them before they also leave. So I will stay on the set. Mr. President will take leave of us. And thanks so much for joining us. This program has been brought to you courtesy Wezo TV and all the technical teams. And of course, we are grateful to Golden Tulip Hotel, plush facility here in the Ashanti Regional Capital, Kumasi. If you come to Kumasi at any time, come to Golden Tulip Hotel and call me and thank me for introducing you to one of the best facilities that can give you comfort. So the former president would take leave of us, and I'll take care of the text messages that have come in. So I'll be back after this short break when the former president, the NDC's presidential candidate, takes leave of us. I'm told he's going to leave us, and so I want to move on and read your text messages. This one says, we Ghanaians are afraid of the security in the most NPP seats. That's areas where NPP members are the areas which are the strongholds of the NPP, but they hope that the NDC will put men on the ground to prevent them from snatching ballot boxes. This text message says, good morning, Mr. Producer. My name is Case NLA. How they intend to do when the NPP wins? Well, this message has been fortunately answered by the former president, and he's gone. He's taking a leave of us to attend another event at Asawase. This one says, can you promise Ghanaians that you will not leave PDS, Ahmed Swale's death, $1 million paid to Osafo, a Japa deal, and so on? This one came from a gentleman with a no name. That message or issue has been addressed. This one says, good morning, greetings, Mr. President, and yourself and good self. We as NDC knows that the MPP cannot do anything. And it goes on to talk about some of the scandals, Japa, PDS, NLA. And he said your name is Rahim Iwere in Tamale. This text message says, I'm Sultan. I love JM. I completed SHS in 2007, but could not find a way to get admissions because of protocols. But when JM cancelled the quota system, I passed my interview and got chance to nursing school, and now a nurse. I am asking, I would be grateful if I can get JM's contact. Well, we may not be able to give that to you, but join us anytime we have issues and you can be part of this conversation. It says, good morning, I am watching the show live from Kaswa in the Central Region. Please kindly tell His Excellency JDM that he has my vote and the heart of Ghana is behind him. And you mentioned your name, that you are Yao from, I'll try to pull the name, I pulled it off right now. But I'm told you are, the name is Yao. Yes, Yao from Dubiase. We don't have much time. I'm being prompted that this program has come to an end. Unfortunately, so many text messages. I am really apologetic that we cannot read many of them. But I believe that this show has given you what you want to hear to inform your decision come December 7. Let's pray for Ghana and continue following Wizor TV, TVXYZ, Ago TV, Adishe FM, Cry FM, Power FM, TV Africa, CTV, several of the platforms, Volta One TV, where you have watched us live. See you again later in the day with updates on Wizor TV and other platforms. Good morning again. My name is Eric Ahianyo.